What starts as fan fiction written for fun can sometimes turn into a novel, a community, and a whole new way of seeing the internet. On this episode of Well, That's Interesting, I'm joined by Monique Mark, a writer and TikTok creator who went from rewriting stories she loved to building one entirely of her own. We talk about her writing journey, online fandoms, and how social media can both amplify voices and distort truth. This is a conversation about storytelling in the digital age and why writing still matters. Let's get into it. Today's story is going to be about someone I know for many, many years. We actually went to high school together, and she has evolved into a very avid writer, and she's very popular on TikTok by her own standards. She's very shy, but once you get to know her, she's a very outspoken young woman. Her name is Monique Mark. Monique, welcome to Well, That's Interesting.
Good night, and that was indeed an interesting introduction.
Well, you are an interesting individual. I have a lot of hopes for your TikToking journey. But I understand that you have been writing a novel.
Yes, I have been writing and writing. This is a project that started during COVID. I was one of those lucky people that got the 1 day in, 1 day out work arrangement. So I had a lot of time off, and I said, well, I can't sit doing nothing at home this whole time. I better get started on a writing project. And what was interesting about this is that I actually forced myself to start writing because I was going through a serious writer's block. I was not connecting with anything I was writing. I was stuck, like a single sentence seemed like a chore. So I really just buckled down and forced myself to begin writing. And I sort of put it down for a while being probably a year and a half. And then I picked it back up about a year and a half ago again. And I started to work on it again. I rewrote the first bit that I wrote when I had writer's block. And you can tell. And I continued the story until I got to the end, at least the first draft and second draft. So that's where I am right now. I'm in the middle of my third draft.
Well, that's interesting. Now, you don't just get up one morning and start writing a novel, do you? I think it goes in leaps and bounds. You start small and then you work your way up to a bigger, more immersive project. What were those small steps for you as a writer?
The small steps, I think it's fan fiction. I always tell people I am a terrible reader. I'm a terrible consumer of content or entertainment because I can never just let a story sit and be satisfied with the ending. I need to change something. And it's usually something about shipping. I need it to work out the way I want it to. So I spent a lot of time writing fan fiction as a young teenager, preteen into teens, into early adulthood. So it started off as fan fiction. Then I started to get into writing original stories, nothing too serious, but yeah, I wrote a couple of original stories that's out there for people to read. And then I said, you know what? I've been giving away all of this for free. It's time to start making money. So I'm going to write a novel with the intention of publishing it.
Right? You use an interesting term there, shipping. Explain to our audience what shipping is in writing.
Okay, shipping is a short term, it's a slang for wanting people to be in a relationship. So they abbreviated it and they came up with shipping. Usually, when you watch a show and there's a romantic pairing, you should be satisfied with it. But sometimes you see potential in another couple that's not actually on screen. Sometimes the writers are actually pushing you in that direction, giving you slight nudges to make you interested in that couple. Sometimes it's something that's totally non-existent in the universe of that particular piece of content, and you just made it up in your head, which is where I often lie. I don't ever ship anything that's on screen. Most of the time, I'm just completely making it up. And yeah, so communities, online communities form around the ideas of particular ships. So a popular ship would be Edward and Bella, which is the main ship from Twilight, or Jacob and Bella. That's another ship from Twilight. But then you'll have the random person who will say, you know what, Bella should be with Emmett. I can't even remember who Emmett is, but that's one of the guys in Twilight, Emmett. And there will be people online, like-minded folks, who will be shipping Bella and Emmett, and they will create art, whether it's drawing, fan fiction, voice acting. They just create a whole bunch of art surrounding this particular ship, and it sets sail, I guess, into the universe.
So you write about these fictional characters, completely made up relationship. All of you are doing, well, the relationship that is, you write about it. So it's a lot of short stories concerning these fictional characters, fictional relationship.
Yes, well, you say short stories. My stories are rarely ever short. I start off with the intention of having 10 sweet 1,000-word chapters. So that's taking me to like 10,000 words. Oftentimes, I end up with 40 something chapters with 3,000 words, novel
Mhm.
length fan fiction. So,
I can tell you, it is difficult to want to write something with a lot of depth and width within 1,000 words. You need to have a really great grasp of the English language to do that because that word limit comes at you really fast. So I understand
it
that. But
does.
how do you rein yourself in?
For me, what I think makes my fan fiction good, I'm tooting my own horn here, is that I need to keep them in character, or else it's not good fan fiction. If they are out of character, it's not good fan fiction. And I don't
Mhm.
write alternate universe fan fiction.
Mhm.
So they're in character and in universe. For the relationship to be believable, you need time and space for it to breathe. You need to break down what's already there and rebuild something yourself. So it's never really possible in the 1,000-word, 10 chapter idea that I have. It never happens unless there's some inkling there already. It doesn't happen.
So you go from writing your own fan fiction to this bigger project. Tell us the name of your book and give us a brief synopsis of what it's about. Because I think it'll be an interesting shift from writing about other people's creations, doing your own little creative additions to that, to coming up with your own characters. And also, are the characters in your novel? I know you said that it's a wholly original work. Are there influences from popular culture or other writers, or even from your own life that you'd have drawn to make these characters in your novel come alive?
Okay, so the working title of my novel is Don't Kiss the Troll. Well, don't feed the troll. You cross out feed, you put kiss the troll. So that's the working title. I wish I'd prepared a proper summary, but I'll give you a slight gist about it. I'll start by explaining that it's not much of a departure for me because I usually write in the romance genre. But because I'm so used to writing fan fiction, it's never strictly romance, it's always romance and fantasy, romance and crime, romance, and something else. So this is, I would say, romance, suspense, or yeah, romance, suspense, or thriller, something like that. Maybe thriller is too strong of a word. It basically centers around a young woman who has lost touch with a childhood friend, and she only learned about her, like what she's been up to, when she reads a newspaper headline saying that this girl has died. and she died in a tragic accident. She fell off a balcony, and my lead character believes strongly that the husband is responsible for the murder. So she begins an online hate campaign anonymously to draw attention to this man being a murderer. He's very rich and privileged. So she has to do all of this anonymously. And she believes that the police has been ignoring very clear evidence. So after launching her online campaign, she happens to run into him by coincidence, which is not really a coincidence. You learn in the book. And she agrees to help him clear out some of her stuff from the house. When he meets her, he's convinced that she's a maid and she will work as a maid in his house. He trusts her because she knew his wife, and he trusts her to be in the house that she will handle everything with sensitivity. So she's going there under the guise of helping him, but she's really going to expose him.
Great. She goes into the belly of the beast like a Trojan horse. I love
The
it.
belly of the beast.
I love it. I love
Yes.
it. That's
It's
good
pretty
stuff.
topical unintentionally, because like I said, I started this during COVID. It's pretty topical in the vein of like the whole Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni smear campaign thing. How much damage can be done online by anonymous persons, and how difficult it is to find the source of these smears. Whether, well, a smear I would think is false, but you know, defamation of character on online platforms. So it's something that people are talking a lot about right now. So I think I unintentionally did something kind of topical.
Though I think that a murder conspiracy or a murder outweighs defamation of character, right? I mean, it's not like he's gonna countersue or bring a civil lawsuit against her for doing that, right? But it is such a interesting way of handling what we see on social media, like using what we usually think of as a negative aspect of social media, trolling or cyberbullying, if it goes that far in your novel, for a force of good. And that is what I find is interesting about what you just told me, that you were able to take something so ugly and try to use it to unearth a murder mystery.
Yes, definitely. And what's interesting about this is that the actual murder mystery becomes like the vehicle for her getting to know more about this man she's accusing, and how things in social media can be skewed.
Mhm,
Because when you're behind the screen, you have a distance from the individuals. But when you're
mhm,
in person with them and you interact with them, you know more about them. You see the impacts of what you are doing. And this could
mhm,
be both positive and negative. Sometimes it's hero worshipping from a distance. You think these people are amazing and worthy of adoration. In person, it's another experience. Sometimes it's you think somebody's horrible, and in person you realize they're human just like you or you and I.
yeah. So tell me about some of the lessons you've learned as an aspiring writer about writing. What what keeps you grounded? What keeps you coming back to fight that writer's block? If there are writers out there, aspiring writers such as yourself, what would you like to tell them about your writing process that helps you get to that 10,000 word limit?
What I've learned is writer's block more often than not is in your head a lot of the times. You can actually write. You can write. But sometimes for me, usually it's like some emotional state I'm in that's blocking me from writing. Sometimes it's something else. It's a fear. Sometimes you have a fear of flying, fear of succeeding can actually stop you from writing. Fear of being imperfect. You believe you have to write the perfect novel, like editors don't exist. Many things can, hinder you in your writing process. But to me, it's always good to have a story and to know your characters very intimately. Like you should know their favorite food, you should know their parents, you should know their triggers, you should know their likes, their dislikes, their boundaries. You should know what they're allergic to. You should know everything about your characters. And you place these characters in a scenario and see how it unfolds. Sometimes it unfolds exactly like you plan. Sometimes it unfolds in an unexpected way. What I would say is don't try to force them into what you planned. Sometimes you just have to go with what the characters want to do. And that's also another way to overcome a block. Sometimes the block is what you're writing is not actually natural for these characters. And if you're not buying it as a writer, your readers won't buy it either.
It does. That is excellent advice because I when I'm teaching students creative writing, I tell them you want to put your characters through something. You want to put them through something so consequential in the story. And they could either come out for the better or they could come out for the worse. And that there is your character's character arc. That's their ability to grow or their ability to just, stay the same or even become a worse person at the end of the day. And as a writer, you don't always see all ends. You have an idea of where you want that character to go, but sometimes that situation is so horrendous to them. And because you know so much about them, they may come out for the worst. And then you have to decide maybe, do I put them through something else to redeem themselves? So it's quite a cycle. They go through the same sort of karma and the same sort of human life cycles that we go through with our situations.
I think earlier you asked me what inspired me, if there were any particular authors or anything like that that
Yeah,
inspired me.
yeah.
I go through different phases of reading. At one point, I was only reading dystopian. At another point, I was only reading vampire novels. At another point in my life, I only wanted to read John Grisham or Nicholas Sparks. So I pull from all over. I'm somebody who likes like interesting bits of information. And I
Mhm.
pull on that and I try to build stories around little bit of information that I get. And the books I enjoy the most are books that teach me something new. Like I really enjoyed reading the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo series because it was set in Sweden and I know nothing about Sweden. And every bit of information I got from their social services to their law enforcement to their housing setup, all these things were new to me and it was infinitely interested. So I read a variety of books, but in terms of inspiration for the characters, I got it from partially myself and because I'm a woman, I'm very predictable, partially Mr. Darcy. Everybody likes to write a tiny bit of Mr. Darcy at some point. Mr. Darcy from Pride and Prejudice, of course.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, everybody likes to write a little Mr. Darcy in their novel at some point. But what I try to do is when I'm writing, I try not to read because I don't want my characters to sound like they're in a Regency novel. If I read a Bronte, I will slip in some Bronte isms. So I try not to be reading anything while I'm writing. So it's been very difficult writing this book and trying to resist reading, particularly romances. I don't want to be influenced and my work begin to look too much like anyone else's. So it's not necessarily intentional, that just happens.
I hear you. My influences for my folklore writing it's from the strangest place. It's from Tolkien because he wrote the folklore of Britain, right? And I'm trying to write the folklore of the Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago. So it's easy to get lost in in how he describes his world that I need to remember. I need to kind of like ground myself in the Trinidadian language and the vernacular and
Yes.
the, the words that we're accustomed to sometimes, But it's still a good influence in seeing his discipline in writing and the consistency with which he is able to build a world across so many bits of writing that he's done over that he did, sorry, during his lifetime. Let's go back a little bit to that discussion on social media. You are always posting on TikTok. That's a very interesting space. I want to guess and believe that you are building a following for your
Yes, that's
aspirations.
precisely what
Yeah,
I'm doing.
for your aspirations as a writer. Tell me about that journey.
Okay, so I got back into writing. What spurred on this recent writing rush was that I saw Wakanda Forever and I was very much inspired. I was like, this movie is awesome. Somebody should write a Nemo Shuri story. That's my ship.
All
So
right.
I went online and I was reading fan fiction as I do, and nobody was getting it right. The only way they could get these two characters together was by writing them out of characters. Like, no, they're doing it wrong. So I said, okay, fine, I'll write.
Right.
And I wrote my story and I started to get a bit of a following. And I made a lot of great, great, great friends through like this online ship. It's absolutely insane. These are people I've met in person. I've met many, 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 many great people. People from Turkey, Kazakhstan, Dominican Republic, Dominica, Barbados, lots of people from Mexico, USA, South Africa, and we have long conversations. And I consider a lot of them close friends. But I know as I was weaning on the fan fiction end of it, and I started to look at this novel that I started, you know, almost 2 years ago, I said, let me try to get back into it. So I went over what I wrote. I said, ew, as I redid the parts I wrote when I had writer's block, and I continued it. And I really wanted a vehicle to promote my novel. And I thought, well, the 100 or so readers I have via fan fiction, that's not enough. I need a little more people. So I thought TikTok would have been a nice way for me to put content out to my readers when I'm not writing. Like, even though they don't see me writing, I'm still online and I'm still sharing a space with them and get a bit more new followers. What I've seen in the social media landscape is that people don't buy products. They buy, sorry to say this, but they buy people. They buy into you and your story. So you have to make them root for you in a way. So I thought if I got myself out there, then people will know me a bit more and they'll root for me a bit more and they'd be more interested in buying my novel when I'm finished. But the TikTok algorithm is so segmented. That's how they designed it. If you consume one type of content, they are not going to show you any other type of content. So people who consume my usual content, which is current affairs, commentary, random advice on manifesting, whatever I think about on the random day, they likely will not get my videos about my book unless I post a lot about the book, which will then make other people who are there for the other content be like, I don't want to hear about this book while trying to get new viewers. So it's a very, very tough balancing act. I'm trying to find a space to talk about the novel and keep my following, but get more people interested in the novel. So I'm not sure how I'll do that just yet. I might have to make a secondary account, or I'll try to do it from my main account, which has all the followers. It's very difficult. The TikTok algorithm is vicious and it's ever changing. So you have to keep up with the trends. Hopefully there's a book trend coming up soon.
Where do you post that fan fiction story you wrote that got you all those friends? Where did you post that to? Like, what site was it on?
It was on AO3.
And that site is for fan fiction only.
Yeah, I believe so. But I also used to post on fanfiction.net and Fiction Press, which is an offshoot of fanfiction.net for original stories. I posted on there as well. But mainly now I post on AO3. That's where everybody is. So I eventually went over to there.
All right. That comment you made about the algorithm being fragmented, and I really was going to ask you, but you kind of answered the question for me. Do you think you need to be posting more about the novel in order to get the followers? I know you do a lot of social commentary about things happening here in Trinidad, so you get a different following for that. What would your content be like? Would you be previewing a lot of the characters? Would you be previewing a little bit of the plot as you go along?
I do have a marketing plan that I would want to launch probably when I'm on my final edit, and it will be a little bit more aggressive at that point. For now, I'll just put in little bits here and there and try to tie it into my personal journey about, overcoming my procrastination habits and manifesting setting goals and setting healthy habits to help you achieve outcomes. I'll try to tie it into that. So while I'm still on topic to my usual content, I'm reminding people, hey, I'm writing a book. So
Right.
when I start promoting the book, they'll hopefully be like, yeah, she finally finished. She overcame her procrastination a bit.
I think people know you write content, like you write stories, you write books, but reading isn't a big hobby for a lot of people anymore.
That's my
Uh,
biggest fear.
it is, and we're seeing that love for reading being overshadowed by people being more interested in movies, videos, and you see that a lot of creators are now pushing that when their books are published, they're trying to get a movie deal or they're trying to get a series deal, change the content into something that's visual, which is very expensive and very out of reach for a lot of people.
Definitely.
Um, yeah, but I think we need to bring back a love for reading. And we as authors, we need to also be pushing that because we need our audiences to come to us with that love for what we have to show to them, give to them.
Yes, I agree. I think I grew up at a time when Harry Potter was popular. And I think in the most recent time, that's the most love you saw for reading. Everybody wanted to read those books and they got into other books. They moved on to Twilight and whatever else. But now, because we're so conditioned by short form content, like my attention span is ruined. Sometimes to train my attention span to be longer, I intentionally watch YouTube videos and make it a point to continue watching them. I question if I'm really losing interest or if it's just my attention span is terrible. So I am trying to overcome that short attention span problem. But I know most people aren't aware that they have that issue. So reading is a bit difficult. And even how people read nowadays, social media is training you to be a consumer of books, not much of a reader of books, and a collector of books. People read a lot of books, but they don't sit with the book. They just read it to say they've read it. And they have loads of books. And then they move on to the next one. There are so many books, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. Publishing has changed so much in the last 20 years. Like me, as a typical Trinidadian person with no proven talent, I would have never had access to a publishing platform before. And now I could put my novel out there and give people access to it, and they can judge if I have talent or not. It's a good thing in that you get a variety of stories from many different voices, and everybody in the world has equal access to these platforms. But it's also a bad thing because there's oversaturation in the market to the point that you feel overwhelmed and you don't know where to start. And then sometimes when you do start, it's a false start because you're bombarded by terrible AI written novels or just something pushed out there to satisfy, I don't want to call any company's name, to satisfy the rubric that makes it possible for you to make money off of your novel. I'm not bashing anybody who seeks to make money from writing. Ultimately, it's not a charity enterprise. You want to make money. But I think they sacrifice quality in the name of quantity because the way it's set up right now, it's 100% a quantity game and not so much a quality game. So imagine if you're not an avid reader and you said, oh, let me go read a nice romance, and you pick it up and it's not good, and the next book you get is also not good. You begin to think that books generally aren't good if you continually have that experience. So, like I said, it's a positive and a negative.
It's interesting that you mentioned people buying books for buying books' sake, like it's fashion, it's fashionable. Get the latest book by the hottest author out there, and you read it. You probably read it
Mm-hmm.
one time, and then you probably post a very on the surface sort of review for it, and you get a couple likes, and then you're on to the next thing. I've seen a lot of people boast that they have like shelves and shelves of books and they post pictures and videos of all the books that they have and they're swapping out shelves because they need more space and all of these things. Should books be like fashion or should they be timeless? Should they have that timeless appeal where it's not that it's just on a conveyor belt just to satisfy an audience that does have a very short attention span?
I don't want to be like standing on a high horse saying people should do this or that. What I can speak to is what I personally do.
Yeah.
I have a very limited collection of books. I've bought and read many, many, many books over the years. I don't know where those books are. Obviously, I didn't feel strongly enough about them to keep them. But I do have a very small collection there that includes my Harry Potters. There's this particular YA author that I think writes beautifully, and she probably could write something that wins a Pulitzer. Maggie Stiefvater, I love her. I love her writing; it's very atmospheric. And yeah, I will keep my Brontes. I am more into the Brontes than Austen. So my all-time favorite book is The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte. Little known Bronte. She's not as popular as Charlotte or what's the other one? Emily.
Mhm.
But yeah, Anne was my favorite Bronte. So those are the books I would keep. I would keep the Chrysalids, I would keep my copy of The Glass Menagerie, things like that. But to see the random romance novel I read 10 years ago, that was good. It was good. No, it's not on my shelf right now. I probably give it away. Or heaven forbid, threw it away. That's how I look at books. The ones that are truly precious that I go back to all the time, those are the ones I want access to. Other than that, I'm a bit of a minimalist. I don't like keeping too many things. So.
A lot of the books you spoke about there are books that I would have read during my school years, high school, and then at university, required readings. A lot of them, I have copies of them somewhere as well, but they stayed with me
Because you took your
because
time with it.
I did. Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You take your time with it because you had to study it. And there were lessons to be learned in those books, things that you could take away. My favorite all-time book is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. And I always see parallels between what she wrote so many years ago and what's happening now in the world. And it guided my entire being as a person in how to treat other people. just like Atticus Finch said, you need to sometimes step into someone's shoe and walk around in it before you judge them. So I think it's those stories that leave us with a life lesson, leave a lasting impression in our minds, that remain the timeless ones and won't just be, you know, sort of a fad or a fashion craze as it appears to be. Let's talk about your social commentary. Um, you really put your neck out there a lot of the times with your opinions on social media, and I think so. I do think so. I've heard a good bit of what you have to say, and I think that that's a brave thing to do, to be able to speak your mind on camera unabashedly about your thoughts. Tell me about that. Like, why did you choose social commentary to pursue on TikTok?
I think you're giving me way too much credit there. It's difficult not to make social commentary on a platform like TikTok because TikTok is like the ugly cousin of Instagram. You're not trying to impress anybody, you're being as real as possible. Whereas Instagram is a curated fantasy, right? So on TikTok, you kind of have to comment. Even if you're not making comments with your words, you're making comments with your actions, you're making comments with the memes you post, what you choose to repost. And for me, social commentary comes kind of natural. If I were to say all that I wanted to say, I'd probably have a very different life. But I know how to filter myself. I know how to thread lightly and still get my point across without, mashing too much corns or whatever the expression is.
Stepping on too
So I
many
try to say
toes.
what I want to say in the nicest, most kosher way possible.
And people come for you. Even in those,
Yeah, even with my polite filter, they still come.
and you handle them nicely. Like, you reply to each comment, and you kind of pivot back to your point while they may go off on a tantrum tangent.
Because the thing is, I think mostly my points are balanced and sensible, and most of the times, if somebody's arguing against them, they are just arguing something totally different. They are arguing what they think I should be talking about or what they want me to talk about. I actually had a conversation with a known former journalist, and he does political commentary on social media as well. This is an established person. And he was trying to force me to say something that I did not want to say and trying to get me to have a political conversation I was not having. And when he realized, wait a minute, she's not taking the bait, he totally deleted the conversation. So it's something you have to look out for when you're on social media. You only say as much as you want to say and don't let anybody egg you into saying more than you want to.
Yeah, and I think, like, some people let their egos get the better of them on social media. They think that they're gonna get fame if they say something contra
Outrageous, yeah.
outrageous and controversial. Sometimes they do. There are a lot of people who are on social media just for that controversial content. It's the drama that really drives the algorithm sometimes.
It
But
definitely does.
mhm,
That's how TikTok algorithm works. It actually shows you, like, if you and I watch the same videos, and let's say you're pro pineapple on pizza, and I'm anti pineapple on pizza, and we watch the same video about pineapple pizza, you will see comments that are like bashing pineapple on pizza. You will only see those comments, so you would be compelled to comment, while I would see the opposite. So I will be compelled to comment.
mm,
TikTok is so deep, it actually caters the comment section to you. We're not seeing the same comment section. That's a drive engagement, and the engagement is often based on a negative emotion. It tries to bring out a negative emotion, which is more likely to propel you to engage with the material. People are 100% correct in that negativity does attract, popularity.
And here's something that I found very strange on Facebook recently. In the Facebook comments of a lot of posts, there were only reactions, emojis and memes rather than text comments from people replying to those posts. Like those were the more relevant comments. They were what people saw before they actually saw the text comments, where you could actually see people's opinions rather than a laughing emoji or some meme that was posted or images that were posted under the main post, right? And I found that very strange. Like, are you trying to stifle a conversation by just showing people reactions? Or why do I have to now go and change my settings to see all comments in order to see what people are actually writing under there, to see what the general mood and feeling under this post is? So, like, what is the
That's
algorithm really doing?
It's a very strange thing because sometimes you see like 100 comments, and when you click on it, you're only seeing like five, and you're right in that it's emojis and other silly things. Sometimes things that have nothing to do with the post. That is interesting.
Yeah, it is. So we need to be mindful of all of these little changes that are happening on social media because it can change the conversation, or in this case, I think it's dumbing down the conversations
Long the
quite a bit.
conversation.
Yeah. So we need to be, you as a content creator, I think you need to be careful about what people are actually seeing from their point of view of from the what the algorithm is showing them. And then there was a strange thing that happened on YouTube recently with a lot of content creators. They were asked to be part of, I guess, some new feature on YouTube where they allowed artificial intelligence features to edit the video slightly. I don't know if it was like a filter they were putting over the video, but what the AI was actually doing was it was making these sort of glitchy visuals on screen, which was pretty dangerous for photosensitive viewers and people who may
Yeah,
have
epilepsy and things like that.
epilepsy or have seizures. But the creators they weren't seeing the content in that way. They were seeing the content as being the standard clean content that they post. It was their viewers, their audience members who was really getting that issue. So quite a bit of things are happening, and you need to be even careful when your content is posted that they aren't making changes. You need to like ask a friend, hey, just send me back that video. Let me take a look at it. Just make sure there was nothing different, in the voiceover or even in the subtitles, even the captions. You can't really trust these things. Like you say, don't feed or kiss the troll. But I think worse than the trolls these days would be those social media platforms and what they're trying to drum up in terms of drama.
Yes, and you also need to look at who is behind these platforms and what are their associations and what benefits them, what messages benefit them, and what messages don't benefit them. I did
Definitely.
make one TikTok commenting on a geopolitical situation involving America. And that video, it took like an hour to post. And when it did post, it did this glitchy thing where like everything was, I don't know how to describe it, was just totally glitching. So I said, you know what? The universe is telling me don't post this video. Delete.
Definitely. That is scary. That is super
That
scary.
that never happens. It never takes so long to post a video, or what to post a video is unheard of. And it wasn't even a long video.
Yeah, that is really scary and also very interesting. And I think it's a sort of real life example for the audience to be very wary about the content that you're posting on certain platforms because you don't know who's actually watching and listening you know, to what you're about to put out there. They may want to sabotage you if that's the case. I don't know. I want to find out from you before we end tonight if you had one bit of advice to give a content creator, because that's what you are essentially. You're a digital creator, you're an author. What if you had to give advice to someone who wants to get into the space, maybe TikTok, maybe they wanna do fan fiction, they wanna do some writing of their own? What's a bit of advice you would leave with them?
I would say do it. I know it's super simple advice, but a lot of people getting their heads about starting something new. They want to write, but they're waiting for the perfect moment. They're waiting for the perfect idea. They're waiting for perfect grammar. These things probably won't come, but it won't come immediately, but you learn as you do. You can't learn by not doing it. So if you want to be a really good content creator, you are not going to make your first video and it's the level of MKBHD. I don't know if you know who that guy is. He does tech videos. You're not going to make a beauty video like Nikki Tutorials. You're not going to make a travel video like who travels? Anyway, one of those travel people, like Mark Waynes, you're not going to get to there immediately. If you look at a lot of these content creators, they started with a very blurry, probably 244p pixel cell phone in their basement somewhere. And as the years went by, their quality improved. It actually improved right along with the video quality. So you'll see 144p, 244, 3, 1080p, and then 240k,
Yeah.
whatever it is now, right? You could look at your journey in writing and content creation like that. A new project or a new technology starts off and it does something, it's not the best, but it works for now. And the more you put into it, the better you become. So the advice I would give anybody is to start. Stop waiting on the perfect moment or the perfect camera or a big trip to get your content creation started. Just start.
Excellent advice. Thank you so much for that, Miss Mark. Before we go, I want to play a little game with you, and I want you to get into character, one of your characters. Give us the name of
Ooh,
this character that you're getting into. It doesn't have to be a female character, it can be one of your male characters from your novel. And I'm going to ask you, no, I'm actually going to start a sentence, and you are going to finish that sentence in character. So tell us a little bit about
oh,
this
this is
character.
very difficult. Okay, I'm going to get into the character of Stacy. Stacy is the best friend of my main character. They are co-workers, but Stacey is a little bit older and more experienced, and she is an activist, a professional activist. She's never met a cause she did not like. So that's let's go with Stacey.
Question: where is this book based?
It's based in Trinidad,
Okay, good, good.
but it's first of all, I have a very hard time writing dialect. So to write a very long book with lots of dialect is very difficult. I know Trinidadians code switch a lot, and we go from dialect to the Queen's English like that,
King's
but it's
English.
mostly standard English. When dialect is really needed, then I will put it in. And most of my readers are international, so I think they would be thrown off by the characters. It's reasonable that they are speaking standard English. It's expected, I think.
And it's very difficult to edit because when you put it through like a word processor, it's
Oh yeah, just green and not red and blue,
yeah,
right through.
yeah. So let's go. So you're Stacy, character from your book. Get ready to finish the line, right? The best advice I ever got was
Books before boys because bad boys bring babies.
great. I like it. I can't start my day without.
Coffee and earplugs to drown out the twins.
Oh, she has twins. She has kids.
Yeah, yeah.
Very nice.
Bad boy
Uh,
brought a baby, so two. So
The smell that makes me instantly nostalgic is.
wow, that's a tough one. She's a bit bougie, so she'll probably say something like fresh cup of cappuccino
Yeah,
while
that's.
sitting outside. I don't know, it reminds of Paris.
Oh, she went to Paris. Wow.
Yeah, she's very, very bougie.
My comfort book is.
Why Men Lie. I can't
Oh,
remember
wow.
who wrote, but there's a book by that name.
Oh, wow. That is really Stacey on point because here she is gonna find out why her best friend's husband allegedly killed her. That was excellent. Thank you so much, Miss Monique, Mark, for sharing your time with us and sharing these bits of writing advice, sharing your writing process with us, giving us a little insight into your social media escapades. I really wish you all the best in your editing, and I am definitely going to have you back when your book is published and you've sold 1,000 copies, and you'll come back and you'll talk all about it with us. Yeah,
Definitely. Hopefully that's soon.
that is soon. That's going to be very soon. So, what I'll do, guys, is I'll leave some social media handles for Miss Mark in the description section so that you all could go follow her on TikTok or look out for her book when it's finished and published. That's it for Well, That's Interesting tonight. I hope that you all will join me for another episode very soon. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Hey guys, if something in this conversation made you pause, question, or see things a little differently, then I think it did its job. Thanks for spending this time with us on Well, That's Interesting. New conversations drop regularly, so follow the podcast wherever you're listening and come back again when curiosity pulls you in. Until next time, take care, stay frosty. Bye.